Hey, welcome back to the Audrain Museum Network. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally it would be Donald or the ABS guys in front of the camera, but I'm stepping out from behind the camera to shoot with one of my favorite automotive creators ever, Chris Ashton of Ruffian Cars. He's been building cars for, what, about 7-8 years now?
Yeah, although professionally too.
Okay, yeah. So he left the video game design world to follow his dreams of building cars. I've been following him since he was building this left fender here on the Mustang, and it's just crazy to see in person. Last year we came out and we shot a podcast with Chris, and the weather didn't treat us too well, but we're blessed with good weather this week, so we decided it was time to get the cars out and take them for a drive. So
yeah, that's be fun.
All right, so if anybody can hear us over the sound of this 427 cubic inch LS, what are we in right now? We're in a 69 Mustang or 70?
It's a 70 Mustang, kind of built Trans Am style. So the idea was I wanted a Trans Am car like you see that run the vintage races and stuff on the big tracks. I wanted one of those that I could drive around on the street.
Yeah. And this was actually inspired by the Australian, kind of Trans Am.
As far as, right? the looks of it, yeah. I found a picture of an old green one that was running in Australia. And so it's like no surprise that mine's also green, and it had some cool flares and some big, really wide tires, slicks, of course, for racing. And so that was kind of the jump off point for what I was going to do with mine visually.
Right. So you started as a video game designer.
Right.
You went to school for art and design.
Yeah. Yeah.
What made you want to build a car? What was the point where you were like, I'm just going to do it?
When I got into college, like for freshman seminar, they were asking us what you wanted to be, what I wanted to be when I grew up. What you wanted to get into, and I told them I wanted to design cars. And they said, well, we don't, I was a junior college, like a trade school, they're like, we don't really have any programs like that. So the closest thing we can offer you is some like graphic design classes, because at least you're getting on the computer and you can do some artwork and stuff on there. So that's what got me into graphic design, and graphic design actually led me to a career in computer games. But what I wanted to do, the first thing I said was I wanted to build cars. I wanted to design cars.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. It's always been a means to an end, almost.
It's
or something you wanted to come back to.
I do really enjoy computer games, and I used to play a lot of computer games. So getting into it, like I was building computer games and. In particular, doing the art and stuff in computer games.
Yeah.
So I thought that was going to be my career for my whole life.
Yeah.
But it's like at this point, I've been building games. I'm still doing some work on them. I've been doing it for 29 years now. So
wow.
I started to kind of worry and wonder, like, if I was ever going to have another career. You look at, like, I'm 49, so you start thinking about things like, what else do I want to do with my life before it's too hard?
Yeah, right.
And building cars is so physical. So I built this car kind of as a test. One, to see if I could do it. Two, to see like what it costs and what it took to do. And three, I recorded like everything. I made like a journal, and that became sort of the build books that we sell on our website. And I wanted to see if I enjoyed it enough to try to do it as a career. And I built this one, and then I built the GT40, and it was after the GT40 that I was like, okay, like I'm not getting bored of it. Like if anything, I'm more hungry. Like I can't wait to do the next one. So,
I remember when you were doing the GT40 exhaust, in in your descriptions, you were saying, I've never done anything like this. I'm probably just going to send it to somebody. And then you ended up doing it yourself anyway.
Right.
And that's what I love about your builds is you're learning as you go, and you're not afraid to try anything. And you're willing to do whatever it is to make the build the best it can be. There's no compromising. It's what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I love that people are getting to see that now. You got the 67 up for sale, the FIA Mustang.
Yeah, that's that car we do when because I already have a Mustang.
Yeah.
Right? So people are like, why are you selling it? It's like, well, that one was never going to be mine. That one was always going to be, pushing ourselves, learning more, taking everything. Like, this car is awesome. It's great. I love it, and I'll probably never sell it. But there's also a big list of things that I wish that I did better, or I wish that I did different, And so that 67 was one of those where it was like, I got to go back and do it all again with everything I know now, but also with a team.
Yeah.
And a team that has sort of different strengths than I do, and you can leverage those. And so the car is way better than what I could have built on my own.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's why I chose the 2 cars we're going to be driving today.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see where you started in a 2-car garage, and now what you're accomplishing as a full-blown shop.
Yeah, some of the stuff, like with the Galaxie, just the sheer effort that it would have taken. I did the math. At the rate that it took me to build this one, it would have taken me 10 years.
Oh my God.
To build the Galaxie by myself.
No, and at that point, it's so much wasted time where you could be building other stuff, or driving it, or sharing it with people.
I'd be 60 years old by the time the Galaxie was built, and it's like, I got a list of other cars I want to get to, I can't take 10 years to build a car.
Right.
And the thing for me is that at this point in my life, like, I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I love it.
Yeah.
And we're building more cars because we love it. Hopefully we can figure out a way to sort of make ends meet financially. But I always try to remember, especially lately, like when there's a lot going on and I'm really busy, I start to get stressed out, and I'm like, it's all optional. Like, we all opted into this.
Right. Right.
It's not necessary that we do anything or finish a car by a certain date or whatever. So it's very much, every car is a passion project, and we're in a really unique position compared to any other shop. And so I think that comes through in the cars that we build. Seem really special, really unique, really different, because they don't have to be commercially viable necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to build what you want to build.
Yeah.
If it sells, great. If not, you're going to keep it.
Right. Yeah.
But you're not going to build cars that other people want. It's just, it's what you guys want to build.
Yeah. So we do have a project coming up that we're going to start on, working with Autotopia LA on a Fox Body Mustang.
Oh, sweet.
It's their Mustang, what they've been wanting to build. They're bringing in a bunch of sponsors and stuff. But the only reason, it's like a couple things for me, is like, one, I love Sean. He's awesome, and his whole crew is awesome, and they've done me so much, like, by focusing on doing the videos and stuff on the cars, it's elevated the brand.
Yeah.
2, I love Fox bodies. Like, I graduated high school in '93, and that was kind of the height of the 5.0 Mustang.
Yep.
And I've only done muscle cars, so I'm real excited to see what happens when Ruffian does a Fox body. A 90s era car.
Well, if you're done, once you're done with the Fox body, you're more than welcome to attack my SN95. I'm perfectly fine with that. I trust you completely. All right, so let's get into technical stuff. So we got 427 LS. Did it start out as an LS7?
It's an LS3. Yeah. So this was back in 2016. Now it seems like everybody's building LS7s. That's maybe a higher horsepower platform. But again, that motor I bought, I paid under 10 grand for this motor. It was from Blueprint Engines, just a crate engine, 625 horsepower, carbureted engine, set up to run. All I have to do is put it in. I say all I have to do, but you have to make your own exhaust, you have to make your own motor mounts. It's a T56, 6-speed from Tremec. It's actually the same. I bought What's super nice about the LS and the Tremec was the clutch, the flywheel, the bell housing, the throwout bearing, all that stuff is just Camaro SS, like modern Camaro stuff.
Okay.
So I didn't have to worry about what parts fit, what pilot bearing do I need. Like everything just works and bolts together. That goes back to a floating rear axle Wattsling. So they used to run Wattsling solid rear axles in Trans Am racing. Streeter track makes a really good setup. It's effectively is bolt-on suspension, but it's just so much better than leaf springs. It's got coilovers. And then I got like really nice, their shocks, electronically controlled shocks. DSC makes them. They make a lot of shocks for like Porsches, Vipers, anything that has electronic shocks. But they also make a standalone kit, and they sell it through Ride Tech. You can put into hot rods and stuff. And so the shocks are super trick. So right now it's in...
They don't understand, but you can feel that difference. I mean, this car feels so... It's crazy. It's a crazy build, but it doesn't jostle you around like a race car would.
Yeah,
it feels like a really factory street car.
It's got a GPS sensor in it, a throttle sensor, brake sensor. So if you touch the brakes, it stiffens the front shocks. If you turn left, it stiffens the right shocks. So even though it's got like a supple ride right now in like street mode, if we were to go around a corner hard, it's not going to let the car lean. Okay. So it's super trick. It's the only thing that I like spent a lot of money on this build. Everything else is like super budget. Like I was saying, like spray painted interior, spray painted chassis. Everything was budget, but that was something that I splurged on.
Yeah, it really is. It's calm.
Yeah, I mean,
surprisingly calm.
It's a drastic difference. You get the Galaxie, it'll jostle you.
Yeah,
real good.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
I love that kind of stuff.
So this is cool because when I, like for example, if I go autocrossing and I have street tires on, I'll stay in the street mode. Yep. Because if I put it in race mode, it starts to bounce with the street tires. But if I put race slicks on, then I'll actually put it in track mode. And it's something about the grip with the slicks. It just handles it a lot better. Yeah. And it's actually quicker in track mode. And all that stuff you can program it all on a laptop, like how stiff and when and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty trick.
You know, people have been doing resto mods for so long, but it's wild to see it in person, just in action. You don't get that through a video. Yeah. Which is unfortunate for our viewers. But
it's like if you jump into a stock 70 Mustang, they're pretty terrible. Yeah. Like, apologies to anybody who has, like, they're fun, they're cool.
They're cool, they have their time and their place. But
and it's cool to go back in time. I have some cars that I keep original that I like to sort of time warp into. Yeah. But with this car, even though it's still the unibody,
surprises. It knows where it's going.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like, even when it's on the track, is it's very, the way the rear end steps out and stuff is very progressive. It's very controllable. Like, the car won't ever surprise you. It's not like a super short wheelbase. It's not twitchy. The only thing is sort of these really wide front tires and a staggered width. It will sort of tramline on the grooves in the streets, but you get that with any sort of offset if the tires aren't the same and perfectly in line.
No, I'm a little bit speechless. Like, to be in this car right now is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yes, we've been talking over Instagram for, several years now, but to actually be in the car, if you told me I was doing this 2 years ago, I wouldn't believe you.
The underpass.
Oh yeah, let's open it up.
still fun.
Yeah. Well, that's the best kind of car.
You know that you sit in this car and you know that you're not in a normal Mustang.
Right.
You see the race car, and so it's unique, but you still identify it as a Mustang. It's still got the Mustang dash.
Yeah, the dash, oh my God, it looks almost stock, but it's got that racy feel to it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I feel like the car stuff, for whatever reason, it comes easy.
Yeah.
And the computer game stuff, like I had to work so hard to find, decent success. That's where I think, I put 1,600 hours into this car. We put 3,000 into the 67, and we put 7,000 into the Galaxie. So people always ask, like, what does it cost? And I'm like, it depends on what you do and how far you go.
Yeah.
You can, there's $3, $4, $5 million builds out there,
right.
Riddler Award cars and everything, where it's like, you can go very far. But you can also, build something like this, especially if you're doing if you could do a lot of your own labor. Like that's the number one most expensive thing in any of our builds is just the labor.
All right, so now we're in one of your most recent builds.
Yes.
First impressions, it feels like you're stepping into a living room. Second impression, you feel like you're in an absolute animal.
Yeah.
It's so much different than the Mustang, which is tame and it feels drivable on the road.
Yeah.
This feels like a race car. It feels like you're doing something wrong, taking it out on the street. So when did you start this build? How many years was this start
I think
to
I actually bought the car, I believe, if I remember correctly, I bought it 2019, so I bought it the year I was finishing the GT40 as like my next project.
Yep.
Like I was going to build this on my own.
Yeah.
Like little did I know that it was going to take 7,000 hours to do something like this.
Yeah.
So I bought it to do on my own, and then after the GT40, I probably did a few months, 3 months of serious work on it before I hired people on and had help. And so it was very early, like front clip, rear clip sitting on the table, a floor, roughly the center section of the frame kind of tacked in place. And that's, I did some sheet metal work on the body. It was all stripped down to a shell.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole team started.
So was this the first car that got started in the shop?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what everybody was already in progress, so I was like, it doesn't really make sense to sell. Like it's gonna be, I knew it was gonna be real expensive build, and it's a Galaxie. It's not like a super popular, like well-known car, so I just thought that like the value wouldn't be there for resale. But I bought it for me. I bought it to build as my car, so I was like, it'll be good. We'll learn as a team. We'll gel on this project and figure everything out together.
So explain that to them. So what's the gearbox setup, and how are you able to just pull gears?
Yeah, so it's a Audrain, and it's like the cogs are different in the mechanism. They don't normally you have normally in a transmission you have a synchro,
right.
and as you go into another gear, it tries to synchronize the gears so the mesh goes together. So obviously in a race car though, the less time you spend shifting, the more time you're going forward, the faster your lap's going to be. So they came up with the Audrain gearbox, and that's what NASCAR was running in the Jericho transmissions for decades. And it just allows you, like if you take just a little bit of tension off of the gears, it'll just slide into the next gear. So you can get, so my setup is the most basic version where I actually have to let off the gas a little bit.
Yep.
In a more modern race car with paddles, they'll
flat foot shift. Yeah.
You can actually, or like what Ken Block uses. The shifter itself detects when you go to pull on it, and it cuts spark.
Okay.
So you can keep your foot on the floor and just go into the next gear.
Right.
So it's basically you can turn Audrains into sequentials. So it's all just levels of like how crazy you want to get. So like I said, this is the most basic sort of race version.
Yeah.
So interesting thing on this transmission, first through fourth are like that, because if I was on a racetrack, I would never get out of fourth gear. It's probably 160 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
Fifth and sixth have synchros. So they're like normal, like I'm driving on the freeway. So that's fifth right there, and you can tell it's like quieter. It went in without any sort of gear noise.
Right.
It's got normal synchros. So that's just to like get to car shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a chassis designed by Ron Sutton, and he builds a lot of what he builds the Trackstar chassis. They're made for very like high, like ultra competitive chassis that you can buy from him kits, and then put them together and go compete. You know, so it's meant to be. The suspension's all Heim jointed. The spring rate. This thing's set up right now to where if you were to hammer the brakes as hard as you can, 160 miles an hour, the nose will drop 4 inches and the front splitter will touch the ground.
Wow.
And it will block all the air from under the car.
We might have to do a hard braking just to see what it's like.
So it's a very like specific hardcore race chassis and suspension setup that I am driving on the street.
Yeah.
And part of me, like, that's what makes it cool, is that it's built for all that stuff. I have autocrossed it. We're still at what, 600 miles on the car. So I haven't raced it yet on a big track.
Yeah. So when going into this build, you didn't have the crew. Was this the original plan for it, or did it adapt?
I already had the chassis ordered from Ron. We spent a lot of time on the phone telling him that I might do a little bit of autocrossing, but mostly big track, and then I was going to drive it on the street. So he kind of knew and designed, and then I said I was going to be in a Galaxie, and he's like, well, that's a big car for a track car.
I mean, it feels like you're so far away.
It's a giant car, yeah.
There's so much room in here.
But they, Holman and Moody took 63. I think they built 3 of them, 63.5 Galaxies, lightweights, and took to Europe and raced in the British Saloon
Those are the
Championship.
red ones that did the hill
You see them in
climbs.
Goodwood and stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah, I watched those videos on YouTube and I was like, that's serious. So is
again,
that what inspired this?
Yeah. So again, for me, I look at something like that and I'm like, that is so cool. Except that I want to drive it to the grocery store, right?
Well, that's the thing. There's so many modern touches in this. It feels like you're in a fighter jet, but you're in a Galaxie, which is your typical grandma's going to church on the weekends. This doesn't feel like that at all, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird thing. It's not what you typically get from a Galaxie. It's wild to see.
So staying true to that, the motor is a FE big block Ford 427 base. That's what they would have been racing. That's what the Holman and Moody cars have in them. And originally, believe it or not, when I first started to build this car, I was only thinking about track times. And being like ultra fast. And I had a twin turbo LS plan to go in this. But after the Holman and Moody stuff, or watching Goodwood, it's such a big, important, like, key aspect. All the announcers talk about that big American V8. You can hear the big block, and I was like, man, I gotta do that.
You have to. This is bored out to what, 526 cubic inches?
Yeah, it's 526, and it's an aluminum block. So again, my focus on actually, okay, can I do an FE but make it high horsepower? Can I do an FE but make it light enough that it's not a hindrance, to what I want to do? So fortunately, Shelby makes FEs, modern FEs. They design their own block. It's aluminum. It's beefier. It's stronger.
Yep.
And the cool thing about this motor is that it's still an FE. It looks like an FE. You pop the hood. Old Ford guys who know old cars know immediately it's an FE.
Right. Which must be nice for them, considering you put a Chevy engine in your original Ford.
They're so happy. But the nice thing is it runs on pump gas. Shelby builds those motors in Southern California, so it's made to run on 91 octane.
Nice.
So again, I'm mixing the racing stuff with the whole, like, I want to drive it and not. I don't want to have to put race fuel in it. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I want to be able to put miles on the car, drive it to work, drive it around town, go to car shows, stop at a gas station, put gas in it, like, just be a normal car. But it's also, that's part of what it is, it's meant to be on a big track. And you can feel that, you can see it, you can feel it. It's got a big functional diffuser under the rear. It's a flat belly pan underneath, so it's all race car. There's no way there's anything else driving around on the street that is like as race car as this is.
No, there's nothing like this. I mean, you got the exhaust right behind you, sticking up.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Was that the McLaren that inspired you?
It was actually a packaging problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't get, because of you'll see the suspension back there. There's so much cage and suspension and fuel cell. We just couldn't get the exhaust. We couldn't find a way to route it. Originally, it was supposed to come out the vents in the back, where our coolers are blowing hot air out of. We wanted to vent there, the exhaust.
Right.
We just couldn't get there, and I was like, what if we just stop? What if we stop short? What if we got to go up to go over the axle. What if we just keep going up? Just go up through it in front of the trunk.
It's so insane.
It's like, you've seen the McLaren 600 LTs, the Porsche 918. Other factory companies are doing that. It has to be doable, Everybody's worried about rain or whatever. It's like, no, the pipes have some drain holes in it. It's not a big deal. That was actually, it's the way things go a lot of times. So the exhaust coming out the back was not in the original render.
Okay.
But as you go, like, you run into hurdles. And what's cool with car building, at least for my experience, is that, like, you run into these really tough problems, and the solution winds up being, like, really cool and being cooler than what you would have done to begin with. The exhaust you wouldn't be able to see if you would have done it the way it would have been trick, but you wouldn't have been able to see it.
Yeah.
And now it's poking out the back, and it's the #1 thing that people see and notice and comment on at car shows.
I mean, there's so much to talk about this car. Just visually, I mean, the fit and finish on it is worlds above what you did in the Mustang.
Right. Yeah. All the paint work, all the gusset, exits, all the speed holes, all this stuff takes time to do and time to paint. You know, it's very involved. But then I wanted to, again, like the Mustang, keep the Galaxie dash.
Yeah.
You know, keep the Galaxie emblem on the glove box. This is actually wood from an olive tree that fell on our property.
Wow.
It's just, you know, I like to make them remind you that you're in a Galaxie, but then of course you look around and like nothing else is like a Galaxie in here.
It's a really cool mix though. It really is. You got Lexan windows all around. I'm just insane. What are those gauges from? Are those custom gauges?
No, they're actually straight up a kit for 65, 66 Mustangs.
Okay.
Classic Instruments makes it. It's called, ironically, an Autocross series.
Wow.
But it just happened to be yellow and black.
It fits so well.
We have a yellow stripe sort of accent theme going on with the car. So yeah, it just fit really well. And I've always liked the Porsches with the different color tacks.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. So yeah, why not? Like, do the different color dash and line it up, or the different color tack and line it up with the stripe.
We're all Porsche guys too, so
yeah,
we like hearing that. You have, and it's a great way to talk about it now that you've mentioned Porsche. You have a very wide variety of cars in your collection.
I like all of that stuff. I appreciate all of the stuff. It's just that, and I draw inspiration from all of that stuff, but then I just tend to build muscle cars because that's what I know best.
Right.
I know it enough to build it, make something special.
Oh man, that's wild. No, but I think the fact that you can find appreciation in every vehicle, or at least a wide variety of vehicles, that goes right back into your builds. Pick up things here and there.
Definitely.
That's what makes them so special.
This car actually has a perfect like 50-50 weight balance, and cross weight as well.
At 4,000 pounds?
4,000 pounds, with 4,020 with me in it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy.
So I took an autocrossing, and even at the autocross, I thought it was a really small autocross, so I actually did a couple laps where I stayed in first gear.
Yeah.
This has got 389 to 1 ratio. And I did a couple laps in first gear, and it could do it, but it was high RPMs. And I thought, well, I'll try one where I shift and I drive in second. And I drove it in second, and it's still at second at 3,500, 4,000 RPMs. Like, it had enough power where I could hit the gas and it will still bring the rear out, you know, break the tires loose. And yeah, so it's like the big block cubic inches, like it just has so much torque down low that it lets you be more flexible with what gear you're in.
Right. That's awesome. Tricks the mind.
Yeah.
You know, you're not expecting it at all in this.
Yeah.
That's so badass. So badass.
I've never felt a car that like
that quick.
Like, that's ridiculous. You know? So tight. it's like a really big. It's the same rack that's in my the Trans Am TA02 Corvette. Same exact rack.
Wow.
Different feel to it than all of my other cars.
It corners like it's on rails.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You know, it bites, it grabs in, and it just pulls you right through that corner.
Yeah, and it's got a good balance to it too. When I was autocrossing, you know, when the rear comes out, you can really control it. And obviously, like the longer wheelbase helps. It's very progressive. It's working with 4,000 pounds, you know?
No, it handles it really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
It's so much fun. This is like my personal, like of everything I have, this is my favorite car to drive.
I can see why.
It's so extreme.
I can definitely see why. Well, Chris, thank you. Seriously, this was a blast. I'm very much looking forward to the upcoming builds, and hopefully we can get you out to Rhode Island with a few of them.
Yeah.
I think we got to show the East Coast what the West Coast boys can do.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you like this kind of content. We're hoping to branch out and get some more people on our channel, some different cars, some stuff that we don't necessarily own, but we really love and appreciate. So let us know. Thanks.